In this video, we are going to be working with dividing fractions. Let's start with some basic division of a whole number of a fraction. We are going to do this using shapes and then a number line. First, let's use some rectangles. In the first example, we are going to divide 3 by 1/2. We start with what is being divided, the dividend. In this problem, it is the 3 that is being divided, so we start with 3 wholes. Since we are dividing the 3 by half, our divisor, we are going to divide each whole into halves. Now we can count the number of halves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 halves, so 3 divided by 1/2 equals 6. Let's do the same problem using a number line. 3 divided by 1/2. Since we are dividing up 3 wholes, our number line is 3 units long. Now, since we are dividing by half, we want to section each piece of the number line into halves. Now we have to do the division. Just like we did in our last example, we have to count how many half pieces make up the whole 3 unit pieces. So let's count by halves to see. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. So 3 divided by 1/2 equals 6. Now let's do division when both the divisor and dividend are fractions. Let's do the problem 1/2 divided by 1/4. We have a rectangle and half is shaded in. We only need the shaded half of the box since the dividend is 1/2. Now I have to take the same rectangle and cut it into 4 equal parts. When I do this, you can see that 2 pieces are shaded in. This shows that there are 2/4 in 1/2. So 1/2 divided by 1/4 equals 2. Let's do the same problem again, but this time using another number line. 1/2 divided by 1/4. We want to start with 1 full unit. We start by dividing this unit into 2 equal parts since the dividend is 1/2. And we will only use 1/2. Now we have to split the same whole unit into 4 equal parts since the divisor is 1/4. Now let's count how many fourths are in 1/2. 1, 2. So there are 2/4 in 1/2. Therefore, 1/2 divided by 1/4 equals 2. Let's look at one more example. Let's do 3/4 divided by 1/8. Again, we need to start with our dividend, which in this question is 3/4. 3/4 of a circle is shaded in. The same shape is divided into 8 equal parts so that each of the 8 sections is represented. Now we can see how many 8th pieces are in the starting 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1/8 sized pieces. So 3/4 divided by 1/8 equals 6. Now let's do it on a number line. 3/4 divided by 1/8. This time we are starting with 3/4 as our dividend. We need our number line to be 1 whole unit long so we can get our 3/4. Because the denominator is a 4, we need to divide the section into 4 equal parts. But we only need 3/4. Now, since the divisor is 1/8 and has an 8 as the denominator, we need to equally divide the same section into 8ths. Now we count. How many 8th sections fit into the original 3/4 of the section? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3/4 divided by 1/8 equals 6. Now let's look at how to divide fractions without using the model. We will need to use the reciprocal of the divisor. Remember that the reciprocal is the number that you multiply another fraction by to get the product of 1. It is the flip. For example, the reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2, because 2/3 times 3/2 is 6/6, which equals 1. Let's go back to our previous problem of 3/4 divided by 1/8. We just need to remember 3 steps. Keep, change, reciprocal. We keep the first fraction as is, so we write 3/4. Then we change the symbol from division to multiplication. And finally, we use the reciprocal of 1/8 by flipping it over and making it 8/1. Keep, change, reciprocal. Now just multiply the fractions. 3/4 times 8/1. This equals 24/4, which is 6. So 3/4 divided by 1/8 equals 6. Let's do one more example using keep, change, reciprocal, this time with mixed numbers. We are going to do 2 1/2 divided by 1 1/3. Before we begin, we have to convert the mixed numbers into improper fractions. So for 2 1/2, we do 2 times 2 and add the 1 so that we have 5/2. For the 1 1/3, we do 3 times 1 and add the 1 so we have 4/3. Now we can do the division. Keep the 5/2, change to multiplication, and find the reciprocal of 4/3 by flipping it. We now have 5/2 times 3/4. So now we multiply. 5 times 3 equals 15, and 2 times 4 equals 8. Now we have to convert the improper fraction into a mixed number by using division. 15 divided by 8 equals 1 7/8. So 2 1/2 divided by 1 1/3 is equal to 1 7/8. Now let's look at our takeaways from today's lesson. 1. Start your models and number lines with the dividend part of the problem. 2. Divide the same shape for the divisor. 3. Count the parts. 4. When dividing using the standard method, remember to keep, change, reciprocal. This concludes this week's lesson. Make sure you go into Study Island to watch your lesson and do your assignment.